now embarking on my thesis. I've also been trained, examined by the Kenya Accountants and Secretaries National Examination Board, KASNEB, and I'm a qualified certified public secretary. I've also been trained in Strategic Leadership Development Program at the Kenya School of Government. Upon my admission to the bar on 27th of June 2002, I joined private legal practice at the time as an assistant managing partner with Ngeywa Full and Company Advocates in Kitale, where I practiced up to 2005. And from January of 2006, I opened my own private firm under the name and style of Katama Ngeywa and Company Advocates, a firm I ran up to 2014, when I joined the county government of Trans Nzoia and the county assembly as the principal legal counsel. In 2019, I was promoted to my current position of Director Legal Services at the county assembly. Mheshimiwa Chair, members of the panel, throughout my academic pursuit, I've held various leadership positions from school head boy at Katuke Primary School, deputy captain, school captain at Moi High School, Kabarak, and at Moi University, I rose to the highest rank of the chairperson of the Moi University Students Organization, MUSO, in my third year of study. I was the first student in that university to be re-elected to the Students' Council, having previously served as Deputy Secretary General in first and second years. Even in my career as an advocate, I've continued providing leadership. I've been a member of various boards of governors, previously and now boards of management, where some of which I've been a chairperson. In my assignment as legal advisor at the County Assembly of Trans Nzoia, I've undertaken extensive civic education, public participation programs across the county, and I've guided the Assembly to enact over 70 bills of the County Assembly into acts of the County Assembly. I am happy to report that none of our legislation since 2014 to date has been challenged for non-compliance with the Constitution. I must mention that I've participated in the electoral process in this country in 6 elections in different capacities. In 1997, I was a polling clerk at Katuke Primary School Polling Center. In 2002, I was a deputy presiding officer at KTK polling station. In 2007, I was a presiding officer at St. Emmanuel Falkland polling station in Kwanza constituency. And in 2013, Honorable Chair, I was a senatorial candidate for the Trans Nzoia County Senate elections. I also undertook a number of election petition prosecutions and defenses in Turkana County following the 2013 general election. In 2017, I was a civic educator, as well as in 2022. So I understand the electoral process, having participated in the elections in various capacities. In the course of my duties, Mheshimiwa Chair and members, I've dealt with our people in diversities. I've dealt with the general electorate, the general public. I've dealt with special interest groups, persons with disabilities. I've dealt with the youth. I've dealt with the marginalized and minorities. And I've dealt with the older members of society. So I present myself to this panel as a person who has extensively undertaken a lot of civic assignments with the grassroots. I understand the electoral cycle. And I should also report that I was a good student of geography. And in terms of our counties, I understand the geography of our counties 100%. In terms of the constituencies, I can understand the location of our constituencies at least up to 80%. And therefore, if I was given this opportunity, I'm concerned with the system. And in terms of administrative and governance issues, I've participated in procurement processes at the county assembly. I've participated in the budget making processes. I've participated in all that involves governance and administration of a public entity in our current dispensation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. I need to follow up on one thing you noted. You represented some candidates in 2013, after the 2013 elections.
Yes, yes, Chairman.
I don't know whether, how did your clients fare in those representations?
We resolved some of the disputes amicably, and the petitions were withdrawn. And I lost in one, and I think I won in one. There were 5 in number. 3 were resolved amicably.
Okay. And
but I must also mention that I had also my own petition in which I defended myself and won.
And there was a by-election?
It was a pre-election dispute, but which also ended up in court.
Okay, okay, thank you. Madam Linda?
Thank you, Chairman.
Just remember, he said he's conversant with the geography of Kenya, at least 80% of it.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Mr. Ngeywa,
yes,
you have a professional background of legal, in terms of legal basis. That is your professional background.
Yes, yes.
The composition of the IEBC in respect of the commissioners, as well as the chairperson, and the IEBC Act directs, or rather demands, that each one of them should have different, professional backgrounds, so that they can be able to form a formidable team to, to run the businesses of the commission. Now, besides the legal profession, do you bring into the commission any other skills apart from your legal background?
I bring experience in governance. I bring experience in management, leadership.
In addition to that, Mr. Ngeywa, do you have any competencies that can help you to fulfill the duties and obligations of a chairperson of the IEBC Commission?
As I've mentioned, I'm a certified secretary, and therefore I have knowledge in, I'm a compliance expert, legal, financial. I am one of the resource persons who engage with even auditors when they audit our institution.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Just as a follow-up to one of the questions, you talked about your capacity in governance. Do you want to just elaborate that a bit?
Honorable Chair, like I've said, I've undertaken a lot of work in public participation, in civic education, and generally enforcing our values and principles under Article 10 of the Constitution, in the process of the legislative processes, in the process of budget making, in the process of procurement. I provide advice to ensure that the processes are compliant with the Constitution, the law, and other requirements of governance.
Madam Carroll?
Thank you very much, Chairman, and good evening once more.
Good evening,
Mr.
Madam.
Ngeywa. I would like you, I'm sure that you conversant with geography.
Just raise your voice a bit, Madam.
You indicated that you are conversant with geography. I would like us to have a conversation about the mandate of the IBC insofar as boundaries are concerned. So the Constitution stipulates that IBC must undertake boundaries review and delimitation every 12 years. This was supposed to happen 12 years post 2010 Constitution, which obviously we already passed that time frame, right? So in your view, what would be the urgent things? Should you be successful in this application? Should you be successful in this application? What would be the urgent thing that you engage in to ensure that that specific mandate of the IBC, insofar as boundaries delimitation is concerned, has been achieved?
Okay, thank you, Madam. Unfortunately, there's a gap. The Constitution doesn't provide expressly what is to be done in view of the fact that the timelines have passed. So if given the opportunity, we shall look for a constitutional amendment or an advisory opinion of the Supreme Court so that we validate the process.
Apart from going that long route of seeking a constitutional amendment or an advisory opinion from the Supreme Court, what is within the powers of the IBC? What can you, as the chair of the IBC, use, through policy frameworks or any other existing instrument at the disposal of IBC that would be available to ensure that that crisis or the challenge that we have now, that boundaries have not been reviewed past the constitutional framework, is achieved? Is there anything that the IBC can do outside going to court, the Supreme Court, and seeking a constitutional amendment?
There's the doctrine of necessity where an act which would otherwise be illegal can be validated because it must be done. So perhaps I'll seek legal advice on whether the IBC on its own motion can enforce the doctrine of necessity or whether it requires validation of the court.
Maybe to help, have you read the report of the National Dialogue Committee, NADCO report?
Yes, I've read it.
What did it recommend in terms of circumventing that legal challenge?
I concentrated on their proposal to have a constitutional amendment. Perhaps I've not looked at that other part.
Okay,
yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, let's come back to the issues on the constitutional amendments. The Constitution can be amended in two different ways, right? Through the popular initiative or through the parliamentary initiative. So let's speak a little bit about the parliamentary initiative. How is that process supposed to look like, particularly given that there is no law currently that guides that process? If tomorrow Parliament if you become the chairperson of the IBC and tomorrow there is a parliamentary process to amend the Constitution, how would you read that process as the chair of the IBC? What guidance would you provide, within the existing frameworks, in the absence of the law?
Now, it will depend on the nature of the amendment. If it is an amendment which does not touch on the matters mentioned in Article 255(1), then upon Parliament amending, passing the bill to amend the Constitution, the President will assent to the bill and it will become law. If it's a matter touching on falling under Article 255(1), Then upon the president ascending the bill, then you submit the bill, forward the bill to the Iebc, and then the process of a referendum will follow.
Right where the challenge is. There is no law that guides those processes.
Yeah.
But now the process, remember, there was an amendment, proposal, an amendment to amend the constitution through the popular initiative, despite the fact that there was no existing legal framework. So my concern, my question to you is, in the absence of this legal framework, what are those processes that you foresee that IBC must put in place or must undertake to carry out the amendment process?
Yeah, if the process requires a referendum, because the bill will be forwarded to the county assemblies, and the county assemblies will interrogate the bill. If half of the county assemblies pass the bill, then it's subjected to the referendum process. Perhaps we will do with what is within the Election Act on matters referendum.
Thank you, Mr. Ngeywa. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Caro. Koki?
Good evening, Mr. Ngeywa, and karibu sana.
Asante sana.
You have interacted, you mentioned that you have interacted with the electoral cycle. Could you start by telling the panel 3 parts or segments of the electoral cycle, please?
3
segments or phases of the electoral cycle.
We have the voter registration. We have the party nominations, and we have the voting and declaration of results.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would like to ask you some questions around voter suppression. Somebody said that in relation to election rigging or taking away, election rigging, that it is easier to rig an election while it is out there. Like it is easier to steal maize when it is still in the farm than when it is brought in the granary. Because when it is in the granary, it is in sacks and it can be counted. But when it's in the shamba, you can just pick here and there and ensure that it cumulatively you have stolen enough of grain. Similarly, in elections, election experts always say that there are many ways in which voter suppression can be done, leading to affecting negatively the outcome of an election. What is your understanding of voter suppression? And can you name 2 ways in which it can be done? Thank you.
Okay, voter rigging may be done where even voters are, potential voters are dissuaded from registering as voters. It can be done through the register by not updating the register. It can be done during party nominations. It can be done through bribery before the elections, and many other ways which go on the ground.
Thank you very much. Lastly, what would be, should we recommend you for nomination for this process? What are some of the opportunities of voter suppression that the Commission should look at, like the ones you have just said, and what measures do you see yourself putting in place to make sure that voter suppression does not occur in Kenya?
Thank you, Chair. The problem we've been having essentially is lack of information among our people on the ground. So one of the measures the Commission or I'll put in place, we shall have a robust strategic communication framework so that the people are informed from even prior to the registration process about their civic rights, about their civic obligations, about the programs of the Commission, the timelines and timings, and their roles. So that by the time we are going to register the voters, we have sufficient, adequate information among the people of what they are supposed to do. We shall also, in that regard, ensure that we undertake comprehensive voter update of the voter register to engage with other agencies of government, including the registration, so that at any given time our register remains as much updated as possible. And then when the people have adequate information, especially disadvantaged groups like BWDs, the marginalized, you know, sometimes because of lack of information, they don't even offer themselves to participate. They don't know their role, the role of the political parties, how they are supposed to get even the nomination slots. That, you know, if you don't participate in party politics, then you don't stand a chance of getting a nomination. So we need to sensitize them in advance so that they take active roles in political parties, and they, that way they will secure their rights and chances.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ngeywa, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Just to follow up on those questions by Dr. Koki, how is violence used in voter suppression in Kenya?
Violence is a very common occurrence, and of course now violence, mostly people exploit our youth. Our youth who may not have employment. During the electioneering period, of course, it becomes a business. During campaigns, at funerals. So those who have the resources take advantage of the vulnerability of our youth. Unfortunately, we don't have a law that in place that enforces measures and mechanisms on the use of money that actually is the prerequisite of violence during campaigns.
Okay, thank you. FCP Etanui, do you like to ask your questions?
Thank you, Chair. And karibu tena Bwana Ngeywa. Now, the Iebc has never had commissioners for almost 2 years now. So if appointed to be the chairperson as you've applied, what are the top risks that you foresee as you take over the reign as a chairperson Iebc?
You see, we are going to be required to undertake work which should have been done in 5 years, in just about 2 years. So the time available is a very serious risk. We are also going to take office when there are a lot of serious pending constitutional issues, including by-elections, including boundary delimitations. And we are also taking up the office when some of these issues like boundary delimitations. There's no legal framework. In the event there's a referendum, there's no legal framework. Even about the by-elections, they are time-barred, there are constitutional issues about the timelines. So the risks are enormous.
So the strategies which you will adopt to address those challenges?
In the circumstances, definitely, if we have to do work which ought to have been done in 5 years, in 2 years, then we have to work over time. We need to enhance capacity. We need to improve on the existing technology. We need to do a lot of strategic planning. We need to engage a lot of stakeholders to assist us, facilitate the processes expeditiously.
Lastly, one of the key features of independent commissions is the issue of a collegial decision-making process, collegiality. So as a chair of IEBC, how would you ensure there is unity and collegiality amongst your commissioners and staff of the commission? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Throughout my work, from the time I was a student, I've been a team player. I ran a student governing council. I've been a chairperson of school boards of management, school boards of governance. I've been a chair of committees within my institution where I work. I am even currently the chairperson of the integrity committee of the Kitale Bar Bench. So I'm not new to teamwork.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Evans Misati, would you like to ask some questions?
Thanks so much, Chair. Mr. Ngeywa, I wanted I hope you have an understanding of how IEBC operates through there is the Commission and there is the IEBC Secretariat. Could you please enlighten the panel your understanding of the roles of the distinct roles between the Commission and the Secretariat?
The Commission is the policy making organ. The Secretariat is the administrative wing of the IEBC, headed by the CEO, who is the accounting officer of the organization.
That's all you have?
Have I answered you, sir?
Yes, you have answered it. But I was saying, given the opportunity that you are the chair, you have understood those roles. Maybe from the operation point of view, the Secretariat is the one which is, you are always in charge of operations. What would you do different to ensure that the challenges we have been seeing, they do not occur again if you are given an opportunity to serve as a chair of IEBC?
I'm going to be an executive chair if given the opportunity, meaning that I'll be hands-on, and my role and that of the commissioners will be to provide leadership to ensure that there's compliance with governance provisions, and that can be achieved from the onset through proper planning, consultative planning, through cooperation, through putting in place mechanisms and structures so that there are systems which are actually running the organization and the people are basically the instruments operating the systems. So once we have the systems in place, once we have the proper plans, the procurement plans, strategic plans, then it will be very easy to provide leadership and direction.
Thanks, Chair. I think that is enough for me.
Okay, thank you very much, Evans. Now I will ask Mrs. Fatuma Saman to ask some questions.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Ngeywa.
Yes, madam.
In 2017, it was reported that about 7% of women candidates experienced some form of gender violence during the election period. So if appointed to the position of chair, IBC, what measures would you put in place to make elections safer and more inclusive for women and marginalized communities?
We need to have a robust enforcement of the codes of conduct. Both the party and the IBC codes of conduct. The parties need to undertake more roles and be more proactive in terms of protecting the rights of women. Of course, our society is still gender biased against women, and insofar as the electorate and the general public is concerned, as we have said, communication has been lacking. We need to improve on the strategies on how we communicate, sensitize, and obligate the public how to put in place measures to ensure that parties, especially parties, political parties, put in place measures to protect their members who are women and other disadvantaged groups. And the Commission should be given more powers to enforce the codes of conduct. The penalties which are in place currently have not been effective. They have been there from 2013 or even before. But still the issues which we sought to address in order to realize a free and fair elections still persist, especially in terms of gender and other disadvantaged groups.
Thank you.
Bwana Ngeywa, do you think that we have had free and fair elections in Kenya?
You know, we are a growing democracy. And looking at history and comparative analysis, we are not doing so badly. But this is not where we are supposed to be, especially after the promulgation of our Constitution 2010. We needed to have made more progress than we have done. So to some extent, looking at even the post-election disputes, the percentage of the disputes which come out apart from the presidential elections, the percentage points to a fact that we are growing as a democracy. But if we put in place proper mechanisms, proper enforcement, compliance mechanisms, then we are doing fairly well.
Okay, you've talked of petitions. What are the other indicators of free and fair elections?
Literally speaking, one of the indicators will be the number of petitions that come out.